2011, the war has devastated Syria. It is now internationally recognized as the largest refugee and displacement crisis of all time. Since the war has started in Syria, hundreds of thousands of Syrians have died, and according to the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees, 4.8 million Syrians have fled the country and were dispersed all over the world. After living the horror in the war in Syria, the women of Syria, or the Syrian women refugees, have risked everything to find safety for themselves and for their loved ones. I have with us today Dr. Hoda Amine to discuss the post-traumatic stress disorder among Syrian women refugees. It's good to have you with us, Dr. Hoda Amine. How are you today? And welcome to MEA.
Thank you.
Okay, can you tell me, or can you define the post-traumatic stress disorder, please?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. This is something, it's my passion, because as you know, I'm a human rights activist, and I love to make things happen, to see a difference in our community. I've been in the field for over 35 years, and you name it, we have dealt with it, including domestic violence, depression, anxiety, ADHD, attention deficit disorders, marital counseling. But the ones that I find it very challenging is the PTSD, which is the post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay, but we're going to talk specifically about the women, Syrian women refugees, and this order in particular with them. What can you say about that?
Well, again, you know, sometimes when you say Syrian women, it's just like any other Arab woman. Remember, our community, our culture, that most of us are very sheltered. Especially, we know, because it's a patrilineal society, the male-dominant society. So the women's, I feel that they're a little less fortunate to be able to survive without having her partner. So when we talk about post-traumatic stress disorders in terms of the Syrian women, again, the majority of the 6 million actually Syrians that left Syria, the majority of them were women, because their men, they either got killed or somehow they got taken prisoners. So according to research that I was trying to find, this 78% of these refugees are women and children.
Yes.
Now, mind you that these women who happen to be single moms have a traumatic experience, let alone the post-traumatic stress disorders, which is in an event, or it's disturbing thoughts or feelings that happen from a traumatic event.
Yes.
Coming to the United States, it's being uprooted from their culture, from their religion, from their families. Being able to adjust to America, that big transition is very difficult for them, especially when it comes to language barriers, unable to communicate with the mainstream. Yes. Taking care of their children. Most of the families that I deal with is when you have children, they kind of role reversal, because children learn English faster than their parents.
They can assimilate easier.
Much easier, and then they have selective reasoning. They want to have their freedom. They want to be able to live like their friends, like in school that are non-Arabs.
Right.
And the mom feels confused because she has an obligation to pass on that tradition and that religion. Now, being here with these women, being in the United States, they're not going to get freebies. They're going to have to work in order to receive welfare. And the Department of Social Services wanted them to work at least 20 hours.
Okay, so this is a must.
This is a must.
Okay.
No, I can continue with you know, the issues that these women are facing since we began to talk about the subject.
Yes.
These women, they lack the language, possibly transportations. They don't know how to drive. They have to find a job, and once they find a job, they need somebody to pick up their kids. And this was quoted from the presidents of the refugees, Syrian refugees.
Yes.
They told me that they have a very hard time trying to help the women assimilate and trying to juggle between getting a 20-hour job and getting paid minimum wages, because it doesn't know how to speak English, doesn't have trades, doesn't have any education. Probably it's another dilemma. And if once she gets hired and she have to take off from school, she get fired, she cannot go back and apply for social welfare.
Yeah, so as it is hard for regular people, like not in the war zone, to assimilate to a new country. But these women, they've gone through like hardship, not only in the war zone, but on their journey to get here. They suffered, they struggled a lot. So this is like an extra work. I know, like the government here, they provide shelter, they provide maybe health, but what about mental health?
Okay, good question.
Yes.
First of all, these women, as you said, were subjected to many harassment that includes sexual harassment, rape. Some of these women got pregnant. And as you know, in our culture, you know, what you're going to do with a child that's not being your own, so to say, from the bloodline of the husband.
Because some of them, they decide to keep the baby.
They keep them, especially religious beliefs, or they feel like, and this has been a very hard dilemma. I had a client that had a baby due to a rape, and her family wanted her to have an abortion. And she doesn't want to have that abortion, and then the family shunned her. She doesn't know what to do with her. You know, she was having, you know, she was I think about 7 months pregnant, and I requested if she want to talk to a hospital social worker or shelter. So she was about 27, 28,
and she decided to keep the baby.
To keep the baby.
Okay.
So she decided to move out of the community at large. And wanted to, but she has to, again, you know, we helped her try to get into some kind of skills learning. She's a seamstress. She started doing some alterations from one major department store. She lived in this community. She moved away from Dearborn.
But obviously she had a rough time.
She had a very rough time. But she tells me she won't feel right within herself to kill a child, regardless of how this child end up being here.
Yeah, how many like cases have you done, or have you how many cases you have?
I can't tell you in particular how many cases, because I do need assessment recommendations and referrals to the court.
Okay.
But you know, a lot of cases also deals with foster care. That's another issue that Syrian women face. We have a culture that, you know, it's okay to physically punish your child. Once the child goes to school and the teachers find out there is marks on their body, a social worker gets summoned, and then Child Protective Services is involved, and this is where the dilemma. Some of these children are removed from their families, and we have to find them place. And now there is the Amer Act law, the foster care law, that we're trying to find a shelter that is going to be accommodating the child with the same culture and with the same religion.
But will they ever get their children back? I mean,
well, it depends on
programs, you know, for them.
It depends whether they are on probation, whether they are stripped from their parental rights. It depends on the cases. Like I had a case where a child got burnt.
Yeah.
And it's a negligence issue, and it requires attorneys, it requires a couple years in court.
So is it
while during that time that child cannot stay with the mom?
Right, but is it related to mental issues or not? These cases?
Well, mind you, these, especially we're talking about Syrian women, right?
Yes.
Okay, depression. Yeah. When somebody is depressed, who cannot focus right, who cannot be able to make decisions, rational decisions, who doesn't have the will to live, or even just surviving day by day, or trying, always crying, always feeling hopeless, helpless.
Okay.
They're not really focusing on what's going on in their lives, because they are sheltered within themselves, that they shun themselves from the outside world,
yeah.
from their neighbors, from families, from loved ones, and they sometimes they lose hope, especially if their husband died or their family members died. They feel how they're going to survive with the kids around.
Yeah, but how do you treat these women? How do you do that?
Treating them, first of all, we do a lot of talk. Okay. You know, it's just like finjan ahwi, as they say, drinking and coffee with her. Sometimes I not now. I used to do home visit. I used to check the environment, see how they're living, whether the children are in good safety. Because a lot of these renters, they're very careless because they rent the house. They have a lot of violations, and they don't meet those violations. These women lives under hazard safety issues. So sometimes we have to, the police, especially if they are informed, they have to go in and see what's going on with those kids.
So to check the environment?
To check their environment.
Okay.
Yes, and then once it is checked is okay, then you got to see what's going on, her interactions with the neighbors, with any family members at home, how is she relating to the kids, why is she hitting the kids, why is she screaming at kids. Yesterday I had a client, he was complaining his wife was always screaming, and you know, he goes, okay, why is she screaming? Are you listening to her? He goes, well, I'm too busy, I work 16 hours.
So it's all stress.
Yeah, the whole burden is on her, raising the children, trying to accommodate their homework, which because he doesn't speak English, it's very hard for her to help her children through homework. Some of these teachers in Dubon, they tell me the women's they feel it's the responsibility of the teachers. They're not involved in the parenting side of the child. And once we ask them to come down to the office so we can do IEPC, you know, and interdisciplinary team.
Do they respond?
They feel, but you have my permission to hit him.
Oh,
yeah,
they say that.
Yeah,
here in America.
In America, yeah, and my Arab teachers tells me that. Of course, they're not going to report that because they know part of it. It's you know, they from their frustrations, because they really they become. Not that assertive. They're a little more passive, and the kids know how to play the game with their families.
Yeah, but these long-lasting abuse, sexual and physical abuse, how will they ever
get over it?
Get over it.
Okay, with the sexual abuse, they said over 20% only learn how to deal with the issue. A lot of people, they go in denial, they sweep it under the carpet, they don't want to deal with it.
Is it a part of it? Is it a cultural thing, or?
But because we're not supposed to talk about our private life.
Yes.
Okay, now once you are, especially these women who are sexually molested or sexually assaulted, she's gonna be blamed for it.
Yes.
They're not gonna look at her as a victim. They're gonna look at her, she must have done something to cause the rape or to cause the assault
but they were in a war zone, so it's known to get these things, you know. That's part of, you know,
well, you shouldn't be outside. You should be in the, you know, they come up with some kind of excuses. My heart goes out to these women because they feel shamed. These women develop
this humiliation feeling, you know.
Yeah, but first of all, they feel dirty. No matter how much they wash themselves, some of them develop OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders. Yeah. They keep washing their hands. They keep thinking they're ugly. They keep thinking you know, God is mad at them. You know, they have sin.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about it in counseling. We have to put things into perspective.
Yeah.
See, you know, realistically what had happened to them. Not only because they need to work with these issues, but they need to build up some confidence to be stronger, to face their atrocity.
Because they're highly vulnerable, very highly vulnerable.
Exactly, Akid. You gotta help them with these, and then if they have those flashbacks, you know, part of the post-traumatic stress disorder, they get the flashback. Like I got a woman, when it was thundering, she was so scared, and she got up and hid behind my chair, and I said, "What's the matter? Why are you hiding?" She said, "They're gonna shoot me."
Wow.
It's automatic response.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
without her thinking, unconsciously, she got up and hid because part of her survival mode to get up to flight. You know.
Yeah, I've read something the other day about one of the women refugees. She refuses to use the restroom because it's unisex.
Yes.
Yeah, she wouldn't eat, so she wouldn't have to use the restroom because she's afraid she might get
Catch
assaulted
disease. Oh.
or something, you know.
I see. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of men around. So
See, with these cases, we have to use a lot of exposures. You have to, cognitive behavior therapy is very important. They have to be able to modify that critical thinking into something more constructive, more valid. There's validity to that belief because remember, the way we think, we feel, and the way we feel, we react. So we change the way they think. They look at things, they project things more into reality rather seeing it as subjective. This is what had happened to me, therefore it's always going to happen to me.
yeah, is it like it takes a long time to get them back on their feet?
Well, this, you know, it may be 4 to 6 sessions. It
You think that's
depends
good
on
enough, or it depends on the situation?
It depends on the situation. It depends the willingness of that person, the cognitive development of that person. Are they willing in accepting counseling, or they feel they're just passing their time? They're there because they were told to come for counseling,
And they have to be there.
They have to be there. I get a lot from referrals from the court, especially when it deals with child abuse and neglect.
Said they don't need to. They don't want to get help.
They don't.
Or they don't care,
They
maybe?
want to solve their own problems. They don't want the mainstream to get involved with their
Or
with their
maybe they don't
families.
believe in counseling. You think?
Well, our culture, again, you're supposed to solve your issues, or go to your family, or go to your imam, or to priest.
Yeah.
You know, you don't talk about what happened in the family. It stays. It should be, you know.
Yeah.
You know, popular belief.
Yeah.
But thank God that, you know, we have risen, and then we understand you just have to have an expensive friend as a therapist that you go and talk to and feel comfortable. You have to learn how to trust that person. If
Yeah.
you don't like that person or trust him, you're not gonna get benefit from him.
Yes.
Your guard has to go down. You gotta be able to be open to what's going on
But they
in
need
your
help
life.
to do that. in
They
order
have to be
feel-
able to verbalize what they want. We don't have a magic ball where I look at you and I say, this is what you need to do.
Yeah,
You
but-
gotta tell me what I want you,
Yeah.
what you want me to work with you on.
Yeah, but I think organizations here play a role with these women. Tell me, tell
There's
me about
quite a
these
few organizations. There is
here
the Arab
in
Chaldean
Michigan.
Council, there is Access, the Arab Community Center for Economics and Social Services. There is also Focus Hope, it helps with food. Zaman International focus with food and clothing. There is some also
But do they help
organizations.
in mental health? Do they
Okay,
really
the
take care
mental
of that
health,
part?
you have to go into where the agency is funded by the state, because these women cannot afford counseling. Counseling is very expensive.
And
So
the
it has to
government
be-
do not provide these
Well, if they
services.
got if they got a Medicaid card, I don't know. I don't deal with
But
that.
since you've dealt with
Yeah,
some
I've
of
dealt
the
with
cases,
major companies,
Yeah.
that, you know, with Apex, and Apex, they usually already screen my patients.
Okay.
But if I see one-on-one where the court, a patient have to pay for their sessions.
So from your experience, what exactly the main issue with these women? The main issue?
Low self-esteem,
Yes.
unable to trust, very hyper, can't think straight. Some of them have depression. Some of them have OCD, because especially if they got assaulted, they feel they're dirty. They always have to have everything perfect, because they don't feel they're perfect on the inside. So they somehow they try to do to be perfect on the outside, project that on the outside. They're very lonely. They feel frustrated because they cannot understand the American culture. Being uprooted, unable to communicate well their feelings. Like if they're sick and let's say they have panic attack, they come to tell me, Mahmoud Albi, I have something on my heart. My heart is not doing well.
So they live in fear somehow.
They live in fear. They live in hesitancy. They don't have much trust with mankind.
Yeah.
Because they feel everybody turned against them.
Yeah. Okay, I want to actually, because we have the largest Arab community, in the country, in the U.S. Does that help? Like, we're going to say that right now. Should we talk about this? Because shouldn't it help a little, like these women? Because as it is, it's hard to assimilate when you leave your country and go to a different country. As it is, it's hard to assimilate. But with these women, okay, they come to this country, they come to the largest Arab community, So does that help a little?
Yes, of course. Some of these refugees, they got relocated all over United States. Michigan, California, Texas, one more state. I think Illinois. New York.
Do they ask them if they
but
prefer?
they end up being in the place where is the majority of Arabs, because they feel that they are part of them. They feel they can understand them. They live within that vicinity, walking distance to the mosque or walking distance to their churches.
But what I mean, do they have the choice to pick like a state?
No. I think once they get issued their visas, from what I understand, they have to go, but they have to wait, I think, minimum 1 or 2 years before they can relocate.
Okay.
And they have to always report where they have relocated to, so that way the government knows, keep tab of where they are.
Yeah. هلا بدنا نحكي إذا في suggestion أنت unless you want to say something else, like we talked about, like how you treat these women, organizations, you talked about that. Will they ever heal from we talked about this.
We talked about that.
And subjected to physical and mental abuse. Okay, this one too, hardship. Basically, if you have like suggestion, like if to these women, like you should go get help and all that.
Okay.
You can.
My message to these women,
I'm gonna like ask you.
Okay.
As a doctor or a psychologist, what do you suggest for these women to do?
First of all, they need to feel, they have to have faith in themselves and faith in God subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have to connect with the community at large. They have to find that as our responsibility as a community, we should have some kind of center where they can go and seek help and have people assist them, which I believe there is a couple major centers, but they come back and tell me they're not getting the right help, or they keep telling them come back and they're too busy or what have you. We have to be able to accommodate these people so we can empower them. We got to help them figure out what they need to do and teach them skills, teach them trades, not to be dependent on their welfare check, because as you can see with this new administrations, some of these checks are canceled, and the insurance, health insurance is canceled, which reminds me also, I want to share with you about their health issues, because that's also a case I have dealt with. So we need to empower them. We need to help them understand that all they have is themselves, to be more independent, to try to put the 3 priorities that they need to work on. Start with the small goals and go into the next larger goal. Because some of these health issues that some of these women have, my heart goes out to them.
From stress, from these traumas.
Stress. Like for instance, breast cancer. Actually, this month is breast cancer awareness and domestic violence. I think I put it here. Domestic violence.
Should get one of these.
Yes, you get it from shelters.
Yes.
Okay, get more involved with the shelters. See, we have to rehabilitate these women because they have diabetes, high blood pressure. Some of them have VD because of the rape issues. Their hygiene, very poor hygiene. They have high cholesterol, nurturing. You have to have some kind of dietitian to help them deal with what we eat in Middle East, but we walk a lot. In America, we eat, we sleep, and we watch TV. We watch TV and we sleep. So these habits to help them transfer into that new transition, so they can learn how to survive. And usually it takes about a couple of years for them.
I think it's so important to help these people, because we're not only helping individuals, we're helping, when they get help, because it affects their children, the surrounding, the environment, everything.
Well, remember, these women are raising our future generation.
Exactly.
And if we don't take care of them, we're going to end up with people like certain president here.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you so much
You're
for
very
this
welcome.
interview, and thank you so much for being here. And I'd like to have you back to talk about maybe different subjects, different things, and
Thank you very
you know.
much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Very
Thank you.
good. Good luck.
Thank you.